It's Monday, March 5th, 2018, and it's time for Vanran10 on sports. So we're going to talk about the NFL Combine was this weekend, but I'm just calling it the Combine so that the NFL doesn't for some reason put a strike against me. You can tell if you watch any of these videos, I get real edgy about using other people's content because I don't want any strikes on a channel that has no subscribers and very few views. You don't want to get in trouble when you got nothing going on. You might take a few more risks if you've got something, but when you're just starting out, you got to kind of keep everything kosher, I guess. Whatever. So we're going to talk basically about the quarterbacks and the running backs in the Combine. Really only two of the running backs and, of course, the main five quarterbacks. First, we'll talk about the ones that really kind of just leveled themselves off, and maybe the teams that might draft them. So you're looking at Sam Darnold didn't throw. A lot of people are wondering, well, why didn't Sam Darnold throw? You're a quarterback. It's what you do. Why are you afraid to throw? I'm kind of a little leery about him not throwing at the Combine, but these guys already have a ton of tape on this guy. They know what his arm motion is. They know what his arm strength is. They already know all of that stuff. It's already out there. They have that information. So it's not like they're going to go, well, we can't see you throw, then we're not going to draft you in the first round. This is not going to hurt his draft stock at all. He's going to get taken where he gets taken. But he seemed to stumble over his words a little bit in the interviews. He doesn't seem as confident as the other three. Jackson doesn't seem to have a big personality, but he seemed to do okay. But Sam Darnold almost seemed to be trying to read from the book of what is the most politically correct thing and least offensive thing to say at this moment, almost like they were prepared statements or something. So he didn't seem as comfortable in front of the camera as as Allen and Rosen and Mayfield. But of course, all these people have their issues. None of these guys are considered can't miss prospects. They all have their little bugaboos that make them, make you question where they should go. To me, the best quarterback, and I've said this, Baker Mayfield. I love the guy's confidence. He reminds me a lot of Russell Wilson in that he is super accurate. He may not be the biggest guy on the field, but he's not the smallest guy on the field. And he played behind a relatively big offensive line in Oklahoma. There's no reason he can't play behind a big offensive line in the NFL. Russell Wilson played behind the third biggest offensive line in all of football, and people said he can't play in the NFL. Well, the Wisconsin offensive line, the size of these monsters, the average size was bigger than pretty much any offensive line other than, I think it was two. So he played behind a big offensive line, and he completed like 69-70% of his passes. Baker Mayfield reminds me a lot of that. Very athletic. But he has supreme confidence in himself. So I'm still, after seeing all this, I'm still in the Baker Mayfield camp. I still would like the Broncos to end up with him. Whether or not that happens, I have no idea. Free agency is going to tell us a lot more. Wherever Kirk Cousins land, it'll give us a better idea. Because let's face it, if Kirk Cousins goes to, right now they're talking the Jets and the Vikings are now the 1 and 2 teams for Kirk Cousins. If he ends up with the Jets, of course, now the Jets are not in the market for a quarterback, and the Vikings would have to either re-sign one of the three that they had last year, or they're going to have to make big moves to get up into that top 5 to get a quarterback. One of the young ones, anyway. Unless they just want to kind of hang back and maybe pick up Jackson, which might not be the worst thing, because remember, Deshaun Watson didn't go where he should have went, and the Texans took him a little bit later in that first round, and it was magic until he got hurt, but he played extremely well. I'm hoping that Deshaun Watson can stay healthy next year because I'd really like to see what that kid can do. So the quarterbacks, Josh Allen had the 170-yard pass. So yeah, you got a big arm, but Ryan Leaf had a big arm. So I'm not super convinced that is where a big arm doesn't guarantee anything. Jeff George had a big arm. I think Jamarcus Russell even had a big arm. That doesn't guarantee success. Just because you can throw it really far doesn't mean, jack squat in the NFL. You have to be accurate, and you have to be able to read defenses, and you have to be a leader. But it seems like with the confidence that Rosen, Allen, and Baker Mayfield showed, they are leaders. Sam Darnold, probably still a leader, but maybe just not real good in interviews. I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about the kid. I don't remember seeing that many interviews with them at USC. So Jackson, of course, answered the questions about what if these guys want you to be a receiver. To me, draft him as a quarterback. Nobody's expecting Jackson to go in the top 10 picks. But wherever you pick Jackson, he is still a first rounder by a lot of people's estimations. So pick him in the first round, and give him the shot at quarterback. If he doesn't work out at quarterback, then see if he'll do the whole wide receiver thing. And hopefully Jackson is not going to be as stubborn as Tim Tebow and say, well, I'm a quarterback, and if I'm not quarterback, then I'm nothing. It's like, don't. It's like, if you could be a star wide receiver, you can still make a lot of money in the NFL. So where do these quarterbacks fall? Well, Saquon Barkley, I'm butchering that first name. He really impressed. So there are people now that are saying he could be the first pick. If you're the Cleveland Browns and you need a quarterback, why would you take a running back first? It's like, take the quarterback. Take whatever quarterback you want to take. You have the first pick, so you get to choose whatever guy you like the best. Take the best one. Yeah, I get it. They have the number 4 pick. There's 4 of these quarterbacks that are supposed to go in that top 5 area. I get it. But why not take the one that you want the most? Don't sit there and let 2 out of the 3 quarterbacks leave the board, and then you pick the one you want the most. If Saquon Barkley, if Barkley is gone, so be it. He's still a running back, and the quarterback, no matter what anybody says, the quarterback is still the most important position in the NFL, bar none. They are the person that has the ball in their hand pretty much every offensive snap, other than a few little trick plays. Every offensive snap is handled by your quarterback. So with that kind of importance, it's best to get the best guy available. I don't think Cleveland is going to make that monumental mistake. I think Cleveland will still get a quarterback with the number 1 pick. They might lose out on it in number 4, so be it. Pick a really good defensive lineman, pick whatever. But you don't have to, the Colts, I guess, might take Barkley if he's still on the board at 3. There's still talk that the Giants may trade out of that pick because they're going to go with Eli for another year. That to me is a horrible mistake. Why not just take a quarterback? But if I'm the Giants, I'm taking a quarterback. So Cleveland, to me, I think they'll take Darnold. The Giants, I think, will take Rosen. At the 3rd pick, I think you're going to end up with Indianapolis taking Saquon Barkley. 4th pick, wild card because it's Cleveland. So I think Cleveland will probably trade out of that 4th pick so that they can maybe pick up another pick or 2 down the road. And maybe with the other running back that had a really good showing was Chubb. So maybe you trade back. You don't get Barkley because he went number 3, but you get Chubb a little bit later, and you pick up another draft pick or 2 somewhere in the draft. Nothing wrong with loading up on young players that don't cost a lot, and you can see if you can develop them. That leaves. So I'm thinking whoever's going to trade up into that 4th spot is probably going to take Josh Allen, which hopefully slides Baker Mayfield into number 5 for the Broncos. I don't think the Broncos are going to get Kirk Cousins. I think the Broncos will get a free agent quarterback, but he's going to be somebody like McCarron or Case Keenum. You don't have to pay those guys a ton of money. I still wouldn't get either one, really, but I would still just say throw the rookie in there and throw in Baker Mayfield. That is still my pick for that. Jackson, I still think he's a first-round talent, but I think he's developmental. You got to develop this guy. So he may go a little bit later in the first round, and maybe he goes to Minnesota later in the first round, which would be fine. You know, they can probably what they'd end up doing. Minnesota would just re-sign another quarterback somewhere along. Maybe they just re-sign Bridgewater. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But to me, my feeling is first pick will be Sam Darnold to Cleveland. Second pick will be Josh Rosen to the Giants. I still believe there's too many people in that Giants camp that believe that Eli is done. I think Eli is done. He had so much talent at wide receiver, and he just wasn't completing passes. Third pick, I think you don't pass up Saquon Barkley if you're the Indianapolis Colts. You have a quarterback, even though he's injured, but he could be back, and give him a really good running back. The fourth pick, I think Cleveland will drop out of it so that they can get Chubb a little bit later in the first round, and then that will insert somebody that will come up and try to grab a quarterback. I don't know who's going to make that jump. It might, I don't know who's going to make that jump. Somebody will make it. So they'll make the jump into the fourth spot. Maybe it's Minnesota. Maybe Minnesota jumps up into the fourth spot so they can get Josh Allen. And the Broncos, I think, should get Baker Mayfield. That's kind of how I'm predicting the first round is going to go. So that's how I think. I think Chubb is going to be probably 10 to 15 somewhere, depending on where Cleveland falls. I don't know if they trade back with Minnesota because Minnesota's way back in that draft. They're kind of further back, like in the late 20s. And I don't think Chubb is still going to be there at that spot. So I don't see them trading that far back. But there are still a few teams in that 6 to 10 range, I think 6 to 12 range, that need a quarterback that we might trade up with them to get Allen, and then they could pick Chubb. Because I think Chubb is probably a 10 to 15 guy, the way he showed at the glorified field day for football players. Don't get me wrong, I love the combine, I love football, I just love football. All that combine stuff, I don't care that a lot of people say it doesn't matter. It's still fun to watch. And there are some people that really help their draft stock. Chubb really helped himself because he didn't do what Barkley did, but he did close to what Barkley did. So if everybody says Barkley might be the best player in the draft, Chubb kept up with him. So that really helps your draft status. So this guy might have been a second round pick. Now people are looking at him as a high or mid first round pick. So that he did really good for himself. And the kid looked spectacular. Now whether or not he still matches up to that will be a different story. Maybe he's just a workout warrior and he's just a real good, combine guy, and we've seen that before. But he helped himself. And when you're at the combine, that's all you're looking to do is help yourself. Because you want to make sure that you have the best showing so that you can get drafted high and make the most money possible. So what do you think? Did you watch the combine? Did you see any of the combine? What do you think about the QB situation? Do you think Cleveland will use both of their top 4 picks? Do you think Cleveland will be stupid and take Saquon Barkley, number 1, when they need a quarterback? Instead of just getting their pick of quarterbacks. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe, please. And with all that being said, to the troops past, present, and future, thanks for the freedom.